Welcome back. We're looking at these windows into Jeremiah's heart and soul as he struggles with the hurt, the pain, the mess that comes with ministering in God's name. We're looking at chapter 20, Jeremiah chapter 20, beginning with verse 14. Cursed be the day when I was born. Let the day not be blessed when my mother bore me. Cursed be the man who brought the news to my father, saying, a baby boy's been born to you, and made him very happy. Let that man be like the cities which the Lord overthrew without relenting. Let him hear an outcry in the morning, a shout of alarm at noon, because he didn't kill me before birth, so that my mother would have been my grave and her womb ever pregnant. Why did I ever come forth from the womb to look on trouble and sorrow, so that my days have been spent in shame? Not casting all one's cares on God leads to anger. And anger distills into bitterness. Elsewhere, Jeremiah faces the challenge with God. Here, it seems, he tries without. Reg White, in his biography of Jeremiah, titled The Indomitable Prophet, observes that to deny God because of suffering and evil appears to ease the intellectual problem of faith, but it leaves the suffering and evil still inexplicable, but now unbearable. Well, let's change tack one more time and look at what Jeremiah teaches about the new covenant in chapters 30 through 33. What's referred to as the Book of Comfort. This is the only place in the First Testament where that phrase, new covenant, is used. And this passage provided the impetus for Origen to apply the phrase, heikaine diatheke, in Greek obviously, to the Gospels and epistles and so on, the New Testament. Well, the focus of attention for a lot of people is on Jeremiah 31, verses 31 through 34. Now, that's a tad bit long for a fortune cookie, but I'm afraid that's just what a number of folk make of it. So, why does Jeremiah use the phrase Berit Chadash, new covenant? With what is he comparing and contrasting? What are the points of comparison? What are the points of contrast? In what ways is this an innovation? Well, if we were in a face-to-face classroom, I'd ask for what you see, and I'd write those on the board. But since we're not all in one room, engaging this issue all at the same time, I'll have to fall back on input that I've collected from students in a live classroom. So, the Old Covenant. The Old Covenant was external. The New's internalized. The Old is obsolete, but the New is contemporary and functional. The Old has expired. The New is the replacement. The Old's no longer effective. Maybe it never was. But the New is effective. The Old majors on punishment. The New majors on forgiveness. The Old was partial, incomplete. The New is complete. Would you agree that a number of evangelical Christians would resonate with this comparison? Well, let's take a look at the Book of Comfort. You want to have a printout of the concept map, or at least have it up on a second monitor if you have one. Maybe the first thing to point out is that chapter 30, verses 1 through 11, the opening segment of this section, is concerned with the promise covenant reiterated to David. Look at verse 10. And the whole book of comfort is bookended by this theme. So look at chapter 33, verses 14 through 26 on the handout. And so I've connected the bookends with that red dotted line. So why is this important? Well, from the opening verses of the book of comfort, the situation on the street, as they say, looks like things are going quite the other way. It's bad. It's a time of Jacob's distress. Look at 31 verse 7. If indeed Jerusalem falls and the temple is destroyed and the house of David is overthrown, even exterminated, it's all over. Sorry to disappoint you, Abe. Too bad, Dave. But now, scan on down the left side of the C map, just section by section, and reflect on what you read in the biblical text or rescan the text. Tough times are a-coming, but it's not hopeless. You see that? So, chapter 30, verse 12 through 31:6, Israel's incurable wound. Isaiah talked about that. Remember back in chapter 1, it's going to be healed. Chapter 31, verse 7 through 14, Yahweh's firstborn, here's Exodus imagery, will be restored to the land. And then, beginning with verse 15 through 22, Rachel's mourning for her exiled children is relieved by hope. And next, our focal passage. But we'll come back to that. 31 verse 35 through 40, the irrevocable covenant for Jacob's offspring. And to highlight this hope, Jeremiah is instructed in 32, 1 to 15 to go buy some real estate there in the land that's about to be forsaken. He's dramatizing the promise of the return. Look at verse 15. Well, Jeremiah's prayer in chapter 32, verse 16 through 25, is followed by Yahweh's answer to prayer in verses 26 to 44. And then in 33, 1 to 13, Yahweh's message that Jerusalem and Judah are to be restored. Which brings us to the bookend about the house of David and the Levite priests. So, for my friends who like fortune cookies, I just want to remind them that there is an immediate context that oughtn't be ignored. So, back to the crux passage, 31 verses 23 to 34. Judah is to be restored, 23, 26. In fact, both Judah and Israel are blessed, verses 27 to 30. The promise covenant will be internalized as it was always intended to be, verses 31 through 33. And the relationship, I will be their God and they will be my people, is restored. The intended reconciliation between God and humanity, forgiveness will be effected, verse 34. So, is this really an innovation? Let's pursue that when we get back together. See you in a bit.